different for you than Lion King. How many people have seen the Drowsy Chaperone? I see two people. Two people have. Excellent. Last week, almost all of you have seen Lion King, I know. So this one is a new one for you. I actually had never heard of this musical until I met John, and it's a favorite of his. So I've seen it now a couple times. So I'm excited to share it with you today. We're going to let John start out with the introduction of it. So John, take it away.
All
There,
right, can you hear me
there you are.
okay?
Yes.
I cannot hear anything, so let me sort out
Oh,
my situation. Here we go. All right,
talking, talking, talking.
now I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Woo! We just
Excellent.
won
Okay.
technology war. Okay, so yes, I'm in the minority. I love the Drowsy Chaperone, so I'm the right guy to talk to you about it because I am a big, big fan of this show. I got to do the show several years ago, and I got to see it in New York and on tour. It's just one that I've always loved. What we know now as the musical, The Drowsy Chaperone, started out actually as this tiny little show written and performed by friends at the wedding of a man named Bob Martin and his soon to be wife, Janet Van de Graaff. They wrote a show and they performed it at the party of a wedding. And all these people got all excited about it. They were all creators and writers, and they created a big Broadway show eventually out of it. It was written as a spoof or a parody in the style of musical theater in the 1920s. So lots of jazz and lots of fun characters to deal with. And eventually, the series of skits and songs grew and expanded and was produced fully as a staged musical with an actual paying audience in Canada in 1998. And then it continued on, and amazingly, I mean, the odds of this happening are really low, but lightning struck and they opened on Broadway in 2006. The show starred Sutton Foster. I hope some of you know who Sutton Foster is. She was the star of Thoroughly Modern Millie, where she won her first Tony. And it has many other characters and people in it that are quite really fun to get to listen to. If you can get the soundtrack on Amazon or Apple iTunes, do so. You will love it. It was nominated for like an astronomical amount of Tony Awards and actually won 5 of them. And it toured the world, including here to San Francisco, and I hope it's come to your town. And it's made many people fans. So hopefully we're going to add to the amount of Drowsy Chaperone fans today. And I'm going to hand it back over to Kristen.
Back to me. Okay, so what's interesting about the show is that it is a meta musical. So it is a show about a show. So it takes place where there's a man, a modern man in New York who lives alone. He's not super social, and he is talking to the audience. But the audience is kind of a friend, a single friend that's in his apartment. And he is telling this friend about this really, really great musical from the 20s called The Drowsy Chaperone. So The Drowsy Chaperone does not exist as a separate musical from the 20s. It is a pretend show that our man is talking about. Now, this man is what's called a narrator. This is a common literary technique where there's a single person who has sort of knowledge about the whole show and moves the action along and helps sort of explain what's going on. And this character in our show, who's the narrator, is called the man in chair. That's all he's referred to as, man in chair. He doesn't have a name because no one talks to him. He is just alone. And what he's doing is saying monologues. And a monologue is where one person on stage talks all by themselves. They don't talk to anybody, they just talk. And this is something that we use in plays to find out what's going on inside someone's head, because you can't know what's going on inside someone's head unless they tell you. And if they're not telling another character, they just want the audience to know. They usually do these things called monologues. And sometimes they'll just be talking out to the air as though
Hi,
they're talking
Kristen.
to
I'm
themselves.
Jacob.
Hi. Sometimes they are talking to the audience specifically, and that's called breaking the fourth wall. That's where the person on stage actually acknowledges that there is an audience there. This show kind of splits the difference where our man in chair, the narrator, has a lot of monologues where he's talking to the audience, but he's not seeing it as he's in a stage show. He's just talking to a friend who happens to be you. You just happen to be a whole lot of your friends. All right. So you got to know all that. You also need to know that drowsy is 1920s slang for drunk. So that's what this show's about, a drunk chaperone. And a chaperone is a person whose job it was to guard another person's honor. So they would go, young ladies were not permitted to be out in public without a man with them. A long time ago, thank goodness. And so they would have these chaperones that would travel with them to make sure that they were safe and they were protected and they weren't doing anything they shouldn't be doing. So this chaperone is not, however, doing a great job because she is drowsy, which means if she's drunk, she's not doing the best job of being a chaperone, but she certainly can do a lot of funny things throughout the show. Okay, the entire show takes place in the apartment of the man in the chair. You're in his apartment, he's talking about his apartment, but as he's telling the story of this musical, it comes to life behind him is in his apartment. So people pop out of the refrigerator and they come out through the closet, and all of a sudden this whole show takes place in this tiny New York apartment. And the last thing you need to know before we go on is that John Brown has indeed played the character of the man in the chair, and I've seen him do this a couple times, and we thought it would be fun for him to do some of the actual dialogue from the show. Since it is a whole bunch of monologues explaining what's going on, it seemed appropriate that he do that here. So what we're going to do is start the show with him. He's going to say the actual monologue that opens the show, and we'll watch a little bit of an opening scene. He'll go back and forth with actual dialogue from the show and some that we've written to just kind of move the story along. When we get to the end, he'll get back into his regular persona of John Brown, but until then, he will be man in chair. So let's highlight his screen right now. It is black, and that is how the show begins. And once he is back in the spotlight, there we go. Take it away.
My messages.
Not right now. Let's let John do it.
Not now.
All right. I hate theater. It's disappointing, isn't it? You know what I do when I'm sitting in a darkened theater waiting for a show to begin? I pray. Oh, dear God, please let it be a good show. And let it be short, please. See how my Zoom window right now is dark? It reminds me of a time when people sat in darkened theaters waiting for a show to begin. It used to be, sitting there in the dark, you knew that when the show began, you'd be taken to another world, a world full of color and music and glamour, and you'd think to yourselves, when are they going to turn on the lights? Oh, how things have changed. Hello. How are we today? I'm feeling a little blue myself, a little anxious for no particular reason, a little sad that I should feel anxious at this age, a little self-conscious anxiety resulting in non-specific sadness, a state that I like to call blue. Anyway, whenever I'm feeling this way, blue, I listen to my music. So I was going through my records, yes, records, and I was about to put on the soundtrack recording of Meredith Willson's The Music Man. But then I said, no, let's have a treat. Let's disappear for a while into the crazy world of the 1920s when the champagne flowed while the caviar chilled and all the world was a party. So I dug about, and what did I find but one of my favorite shows, The Drowsy Chaperone. Remember? Anyone? It's a 2-record set from the original recording made in 1928. Let me read to you what it says on the back. It says, mix-ups, mayhem, and a gay wedding. Of course, the phrase gay wedding has a different meaning now, but back then it just meant fun. And that's just what this show is, fun. So let's listen and watch some of the opening number called Fancy Dress. My best friend Kristen, who found this homemade video on the YouTubes and the interweb, introduced us to all the characters. It introduces us to all the characters in the main story of the show. Kristen, are you there? I don't quite understand technology. Is it?
I'll
Oh,
take
there
it
you are.
away. Don't you worry.
Okay, hi. Good to
Hi.
see you.
All right, so we are going to listen to the opening song called Fancy Dress.
1928. You've just arrived at the doors of the Morosco Theatre in New York, where the curtain's about to go up on a new Gable and Stein musical. I can't wait.
Underling?
Yes, madam.
Oh, how do I look?
You look radiant, Mrs. Tottendale.
Oh, I do love this dress so. It never goes out of style.
It's a miracle, madam.
My dress, my fancy dress. I don't know why I'm wearing it, I must confess. My dress, I love my dress. Would someone tell me why I put it on?
Yes, your dress, your fancy dress. 'Twas such a pleasure airing it, restitching and repairing it. God bless your dress, that's one fine dress, and I will tell you why you put it on. Wedding bells will ring, wedding bells will chime. Madam, you're the hostess and it's happy wedding time. Wedding bells will ding, wedding bells will dong. Wedding bells will ding-a-ling and we will ding along. Your dress, your fancy dress. We're very, very glad you put it on. Oh. Wedding guests have come.
Wedding guests are here. Wedding guests are at the door and soon they will appear.
I'm Robert, the bridegroom. I'm here to marry Janet. That's Sarah Feltic's Follies, whom I love a lot.
I'm George, that's George, the best man, George. I'm honored to be doing what a best man ought. Mrs. Tottendale, now don't worry, I got the whole wedding planned down. The key is organization. See, each string represents a task yet to be completed. Pay the musicians, yell at the florist, and book the minister. This whole wedding is gonna run like clockwork.
Oh, is there going to be a wedding?
I'm Felzig, producer. I've lost my leading lady. I gotta stop this wedding or I'm not worth squat.
I'm Kitty, Miss Kitty. I came with Mr. Felzig. I'll be a leading lady if I get my chance.
We're pastry chefs. We're pastry chefs. We cross our hearts with pastry chefs. No fakery. A bakery is what we got.
Adolfo, my name is Adolfo. I am the king of romance, so kiss the Lord.
You are the king of romance, so you kiss the Lord. Wedding bells will ring. Wedding bells will chime. Wedding bells will celebrate a happy wedding time. Someone hasn't come. Someone isn't here. Where is Janet Van de Graaff and when will she appear? It's Janet Van de Graaff.
I'm Janet Van de Graaff, here to marry Robert Martin, giving up a life of glamour to... Am I late? I'm the chaperone of Janet Van de Graaff, maid of honor, friend and confidant, and all that rap. Where's the bar?
A wedding, hooray!
It's prohibition, madam.
A wedding, how gay!
Good thing I brought my own.
A wedding today!
Champagne makes me drowsy.
It's really happening, truly happening, almost happening. What is happening?
I'm Trix, the aviatrix. We love the sky. I circle through
Well, there you have it. All the guests have arrived. We have a bride.
All right, back to you.
There we have it. That's right. All the guests have arrived. We have a bride who's giving up the stage for her love and her debonair bridegroom, a harried producer, jovial gangsters posing as pastry chefs, a flaky Corinne, a Latin Lothario, and an aviatrix, a lady who flies a plane. And of course, my favorite character, the drowsy chaperone. What more do you need for an evening's entertainment? To tell a little more about how the story unfolds, I'll hand it over to my dear friend Kristen.
I'm here. I'll take you back over. All right. So, as you're getting, this is kind of a wacky, silly show. And so the plot follows right along with being just absolutely ridiculous. We're going to quickly go through what happens because it is zany and there's no other word for it. All right. So the two gangsters that are posing as pastry chefs show up and they tell the producer, I always get his name wrong. Feldzig.
Yes.
Yeah, Feldzig. I always get his name wrong. That he has to sabotage the wedding because if the wedding goes on, he will lose the leading lady, Janet, because in the 20s, once a woman got married, she could no longer be on the stage. So they said they have to cancel this wedding because their boss has invested in the show and the show will fail if they don't have Janet as the leading lady. So the producer, Feldzig, hires that Latin Lothario to come in and seduce Janet away from Robert and end the wedding. All right. So meanwhile, Robert's in his room, and he's talking about how he has these cold feet coming into the wedding. So what do you do in a 1920s musical when you have cold feet? You tap dance. So he begins this big tap dance number, and his best friend joins in, and they do this tap dance number. And then George says, oh, you know what? You might get hurt tap dancing. I have a better idea. You should go roller skating in the garden. And just to make sure that you don't accidentally see your bride, you should be blindfolded while you're roller skating in the garden, which, makes perfect sense for a 1920s musical. So he goes off to do that in the garden. All right, outside at the pool, Janet is there surrounded by reporters, and they're all saying, are you sure? Are you sure you really want to get married and give up this glamorous life and this glamorous career you have? And she says, absolutely. And she sings a song called I Don't Want to Show Off No More. So I'm going to play a little bit of that great song for you too. We'll go to this one, and it is Sutton Foster that John was mentioning earlier. This is a production from the Tonys. It's not the best video quality. It's the only one I could find, and I didn't want you to see Sutton doing it, so we're just gonna go with what we've got.
Pantograph, is it true you're giving up a successful career to marry a man on the stage?
Yes.
So you won't be returning to the stage ever?
I shan't.
You shan't?
I shan't.
I have a question. How can you give up the footlights when you know very well you got grease paint in your veins?
Oh, Victor, if you think this is about vanity, you couldn't be more wrong. I don't want to show off no more. I don't want to sing tunes no more. I don't want to ride moons no more. I don't want to show off. I don't want to wear this no more. I'll play the saucy twist no more. I'll blow my signature no more. I don't want to show off.
Janet, please.
Don't try to control me. I've made up my mind, and that's it. I quit. I'm leaving it all behind. I don't want to be cute no more. Make the gentleman hoot no more. I don't want to wear fruit no more. I don't want to show off.
She don't want to show off no more.
Not me.
Even in the news no more.
Hey, straight.
Yes, always refuse no more.
Gee, I don't want to show off.
She don't want to show off.
I don't want to show off.
She don't want to show off no more. Off no more.
Not me. no more attention. I counted to 10, and I'm through. Oh, to you, you'll never see this. You'll never see this. Never see this. Never see that. Never see these again. I don't wanna change keys no more. I don't wanna strip keys no more. I don't wanna say cheese no more. I don't care if you saw. I don't wanna be cheered no more. Praise no more. Grab no more. Touch no more. Loved no more. I don't wanna show off. 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 No more.
All right. So clearly, she doesn't want to show off anymore. Back to you, John.
Yes. Oh, she's so wonderful. So back in Janet's room, after she does that amazing production number, she's having doubts about whether Robert really loves her, and she asks her drowsy chaperone her advice. And the chaperone responds with an extemporaneous song called As We Stumble Along, which is a rousing anthem to alcoholism. I guess this is a thing from the 20s again, right? And she insisted on including it in the show. More hopefully, the chaperone tells Janet that she's feeling a little drowsy, aka drunk, so she must take a nap, giving Janet the opportunity to ask Robert if he does actually love her. Janet leaves for the garden, and remember, Robert's in the garden roller skating with a blindfold on, for reasons that still remain a little curious. And the chaperone happily pretends to be Janet and allows Adolfo, the Latin Lothario, to seduce her. And he sings this amazing song, I am Adolfo. And so Janet, in the garden, blindfolded, with Robert, who's blindfolded, pretends to be a French woman. Again, because, see, this is all making a lot of sense. It really is. It's so obviously confusing. She pretends to be a French woman named Mimi from the middle of France where they make the French toast. And she asks Robert how he met his bride, and he describes their love-struck first meeting by singing this wonderful song, I'm an accident waiting to happen. And Kristen is going to play the role of Robert right now for us and sing parts of that song.
Well, I'm going to actually just sing the second half of this duet that Janet sings.
Oh, I see. Wonderful. I can't wait.
Yeah. So I will sing a little bit of Accident Waiting to Happen. I got to start a little sooner. Sorry about that. Hang on. It started too soon. There we
Technology.
go. I know. Strikes again. When men say I'm sweet and fall at my feet, my heart doesn't beat any faster. But when you lose control, it touches my soul. So I'm bracing myself for disaster. You're an accident waiting to happen, a catastrophe destined to be. You're the rags in the cellar, a broken umbrella, a branch hanging loose from a tree. I can see myself jumping and clapping for a man who lives dangerously. You're an accident waiting to happen, so hurry and happen to me. That's all I will sing of that one. All right, back to our story. Carried away by these emotions, Robert kisses Mimi. He's actually kissing Janet, but Janet gets really mad that Robert would kiss some strange French woman, and she storms away. because there needs to be some conflict in every show. All right, meanwhile, Kitty, who we met earlier, the girlfriend of the producer, she's the one who wants to become the leading lady if Janet gets married. So she's in no hurry to end this wedding. So she tries to convince Feldzig that she has mind reading abilities, and he's not super impressed by this. This is when the gangsters appear again, and they say, you're not ending this wedding, and so we're going to kill you. And they say they're going to give you a Toledo surprise, which means murder him. But he's not a producer for nothing. He says, oh my gosh, you guys have so much talent, and you should definitely be in a show. And the gangsters get really carried away by this idea, and they turn Toledo surprise into a big dance number. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Because there's no songs from this show that you know and that you can sing along, instead of a sing-along, we decided to do a dance-along. So you may dance where you are in your chair if you would like, or if you have room, you can get up and dance along. So what I'm going to show you, it's a choreography video. And this is what would happen if you were auditioning for a show. You would go in, a choreographer would teach you a small bit of music and dance, and you would get to practice it a couple times, and then you do it by yourself to show them that you know what you're doing. So we're going to learn the first part of this little choreography, and that'll take about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to play for you the video of what it looks like when it's all done and put together. So if you have a moment where you can stand up and get some space, do that. I'm going to turn my camera, and I know my lighting gets bad this way because I'm backlit, but you can watch the video. All right, so here's the audition tutorial. I hope some of you do this with me, and we'll start.
Hello, my name is Matthew Kill, and I am the choreographer for the Drowsy Chaperone. Today I'm going to teach you a short combination for you to submit for your audition piece. It comes in 3 sections. The first section is very easy, so it's for actors that move. The second section is intermediate, so it's for those that have had some dance. And the third section will be for the dancers. If you are just an actor mover, you can submit just the first section. If you've had some dance, you can submit section 1 and 2. If you are a dancer, you can submit all 3 sections along with a tap option, which I will give you at the end, and then also an option to show tricks. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to teach you the combination facing back, so there's no confusion while you're learning it. And I'll also turn to the front periodically so that you can kind of see where the hands go. The beginning is very easy. We're going to start with our hands going over to our right shoulder. The pattern will be right, left, right, left. Or up, down, down, up. It's going to go in the upbeat, so it'll be a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 5, 6, a 7, 8. So we are a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5, 6, 7, 8. Go ahead and feel free to move with it. So you have up and down and down and up. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From there, you're going to do 2 push steps, is what I call them. So you go push, close, push, close, push, close, push, close. So what that looks like to the front is a 1, a 6, a 7, an 8, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 5, 6, a 7,
All right,
8.
I see you sitting there. Move your
To the
arms.
back. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Going on from there, jazz split. Everyone should know this one. You step right, cross, left, back, and close. So facing the back, right, cross, left, back, and close. So all together we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5, 6, a 7, 8, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 5, 6, a 7, 8, a 1, 2, a 3, and a 4. So you can see your jazz first slows down just a little bit. Again, a 5, 6, 7, 8, a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5, 6, 7, 8, a 1, 2, 4, a
All right. So that gave you a little idea of what it is like to audition, to learn part of an audition piece. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play you a little bit of, it's a different production, but it has kind of the same idea of Toledo's Surprise, and you'll watch what it looks like. You can kind of get a feel for some of those moves that we did. So we're going to start that. I'm starting it right where the dance break is, which is what we just learned. Okay, I left in there at the end of that number where there's a little musical joke where the record skips. And maybe some of you have had record players before, but sometimes the needle would get stuck in a groove and it would play it again and again and again and again until you got up and actually moved it. So that's what happens during this number where the dancers and everyone on stage just keeps doing that same motion over and over again because the needle's stuck until the man in the chair runs across, gets to the record player and moves it to the end of the song. So that is our dance along portion. I hope you enjoyed that part of it. It was fun to see some of you moving along. All right, and we will get back to the story.
Yes, and as you'll notice, maybe for those eagle eyes out there, us men in chairs who wear our sweaters don't do the dancing. That's right. So I sat at a chair and watched everyone else do all that very, very challenging dancing. It's so much fun to be on the stage and not have to dance when everyone else does. All right. So back to the story. Now is the moment where Aldolfo, the Latin Lothario, is with the chaperone on his arm, and he announces that he's seduced who he thinks is the bride, and the wedding is cancelled. But Feldzig, the producer, angrily tells him that he's seduced the wrong woman, which he has. Then Janet, the actress, comes in and announces that she's canceling the wedding because Robert kissed Mimi, the French girl that she was pretending to be. Oh my gosh, are you confused? I'm too, and I've seen it and been in it many times, but it doesn't matter because it's just fun, and that's all that matters in the end. So this is the end of the first record. You know, we were talking about the records that the man in chair, me, carries around. There's 2 records in here, and one of them is just now finished. So we'll go on to the second half.
All right, as the man in the chair says this, he leaves the stage, he puts on a record and he leaves the stage to go take a break. Accidentally, though, he puts on a record where all of a sudden we're transported to this totally different scene. It's this oriental landscape. There's all these characters in totally different oriental costumes, and they're very stereotypical. The chaperone comes out in this hoop skirt and sings a song called Message from a Nightingale that just totally different, takes it entirely separate idea of what's going on, and the audience is a little confused usually at this point when man in chair comes rushing back in.
Yes. And so in the show, it's the only time I got to leave the stage, and I needed to get a little sip of water. So let me do that real quick. And I come running back in and say, sorry. That song is not from the Drowsy Chaperone. That was from another musical entirely. I have a woman who comes in once a month and she cleans the things that I absolutely refuse to clean. And she's very good, but she has an annoying habit of putting my records away and in the wrong sleeves. So that's why we had the wrong song playing there. I'm so sorry. So back to the real Drowsy Chaperone. So the second act starts with a musical dream sequence where Janet, the actress, laments her lost romance and decides to return to the stage. Mrs. Tottendale, the crazy lady from the beginning who doesn't know why she put on her fancy dress, tells the butler that the wedding will proceed as planned, and she sings this lovely song called Love is Always Lovely in the End. And she reveals to the butler that she's actually in love with him. So now the chaperone announces there will be a wedding after all. She's going to marry Adolfo. Mrs. Tottendale announces she's going to marry the butler. And then Robert tells Janet that he loves her and admits that she was really the French girl. And everybody gets back in key with that, and they get to get married too. And then Kitty decides, the girlfriend of the producer, decides that she wants to marry the producer. So now we have 4 weddings. We were going to have 1. Now we have 4. Through all this craziness and confusion. So it wouldn't be the end of a show without a whole bunch of good weddings, right? So George, the best man, the guy who had those strings tied on his finger in that little video we saw, realizes he's failed at his most important task, which is to find a minister. You have to have a minister to have a wedding, let alone 4 weddings. And that's, if you'll remember, at the very beginning, I said that there was an aviatrix, a lady who flies a plane. She just magically appears again. She hasn't been on stage since the very beginning. And she comes along and she lands her plane in my apartment and announces that she's about to go to Rio. And because she's a captain of a plane, she's allowed to marry people. And so everybody gets on the plane and they all sing their marriage vows as they fly off to Rio and sing the song, I Do in the Sky. Whew. That was a lot. That was a lot of musical for 90 minutes.
Right. Now, just as we're about to hit the last chord of the song,
yes,
all the lights go out in the theater. Everything stops. And what happens is the power's gone out in the apartment of our man in the chair, and the superintendent comes in and fixes the lights, gets the breaker going back on, turns the power back on, and we're able to play the last chord of the show. Now, up until this point, the man in the chair, while he has been running in and out of what's going on in the scene, none of the actors have seen him, not at all. And so here he is, the last chord plays, and he has one final thing to say.
Look, I know it's not a perfect show for everyone, but it does what a musical is supposed to do. It takes you to another world and gives you a little tune to carry with you in your head, you know? A little something to help you escape from the dreary horrors of the real world. A little something when you're feeling blue, you know? As we stumble along on life's funny journey, as we stumble along into the blue, we look here and we look there, seeking answers anywhere, never sure of where to turn or what to do. It's funny how musicals can teach us about ourselves, isn't it? Kristen, are you still there?
Still here.
Oh, you had some more you wanted to say, right?
I do. All right. Thank you, John, for being the man in the chair. That was really great. Loved having a lot of that dialogue from the show. That's great. We just have a few more minutes, and I want to talk about this show. Now, if you remember back to the very first musical we all did together, which was Funny Face, this was a musical that took place in the 1920s, and it even had an aviatrix in it, and it had wacky weddings, and it had all of these elements. And this show is a parody of shows like that. but it's a parody with love. It's looking at these kinds of shows in a very tender, gentle, like this is a wonderful thing that we had as part of our tradition, and it's looking back in a really sweet way. One of the songs I really want to highlight was the one we listened to, Show Off, where she was doing all those tricks. And if you remember, she did cartwheels and she did splits and she dove through a hoop and she did some rolls and she played on the glasses and she blew on the thing and she played on the this and she spun the plate and she did all these tricks. Now, in the 20s, when we were transitioning from vaudeville theater into musical theater, there were so many productions happening all at once. There were so many. And to get the people to come to your production, everyone tried to do something a little better, a little fancier, a little more spectacular. And as they were doing this, each show got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And as that happened, it developed into what is now American musical theater. It was this process of all these hundreds and hundreds of shows trying to outdo each other that really coalesced this into an art form that we have had for generations since then. And this song, Show Off, is sort of just a little microcosm of that, like a picture of what all the different things that they were trying out. Like, are people going to want to see you spin plates? Are people going to want to see you jump through hoops? Are people going to want to see you gymnastics? So they tried all the things. And in doing it, they sort of found the package that works for musicals and has worked for a long time. And this is sort of looking back at those kinds of musicals. Ooh, we're getting close on time, but there's a couple more things I want to say. So why we had so many musicals in the 1920s is because it was the end of World War I. And World War I was really awful. And it was the first real big war that touched so many people and touched Americans, especially people of that generation. They hadn't experienced that before. And the fact that we didn't have communication like we do now, they weren't aware of other things happening in the world. So the horrors of World War I were really real for the first time. And when it was over, they did not want to think about it anymore. They wanted happy endings. They wanted zany dance sequences. They wanted clever spectacle. They wanted lyrics that took them away to another world. And that's how this whole thing in the 20s happened, where all these people were doing this. Like, here, let's just not think about serious, heavy realism, characters with angst, characters with big feelings. Like, it definitely wouldn't have worked to do West Side Story then, you know, where there's this big emotional content. They wanted fun, bubblegum, let's just dance and enjoy ourselves and take ourselves entirely out of the dreary world. So this musical is a meta musical. So it's us in the modern day, the man in the chair, looking back at musicals from this time period and longing for this sort of easy bubblegum charm fun without having to have these convoluted, interesting, complex emotional pulls, where you could just enjoy yourself. And it's looking at this sort of longingly, like, I wish we still had musicals like this. Fortunately, these musicals didn't go anywhere. And with the advent of modern technology, we can watch them pretty much anytime. But that is the crux of this musical. And it sort of looks at what musicals used to be in a way that is what musicals have become. So that is why we brought it to you today. All right, there's a couple things we need to do. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a poll where you are going to choose what musical we do next week. So we're going to give you three choices, and they'll appear on your screen, and we'll give you a whole minute to click on it with your mouse. There'll be a little box that you get to check, and it'll tell us which one you prefer. The three musicals you may choose from are Wicked, Cinderella, and Secret Garden. Those are the three musicals. There will be others next time, and I know this isn't everybody's favorite, but we're just going to choose from those three for now. So Karen, would you put that poll up for us, please? All right. So when you have your question, when you see it, just click on the one you would most like to do. Excellent.
Wow.
A lot of
it is like runaway.
I know. It's super fun to watch you all doing this in real time.
Wow.
All right.
Now it's changing a little.
It is. I love it. Get your votes in. Get your vote. This is exciting.
Vote. You can only vote once.
So if about half of you have done it.
This is a democracy.
Yeah. It is. And don't worry, we may get to a musical you don't choose. We may do it a different week. It was just this first week. We're going to see what it's like. All right. I'm not going to tell you who's winning it. We have another 15 seconds or so. I only have about half of you have voted. So let's get a couple. Well, actually, 23.
I have one from Wicked. Godspell. Where do I write Godspell?
No, we're not choosing from Godspell.
Not choosing. Just get to vote.
Choosing these three.
All right. In 10 more seconds. Get your vote in. 10 more seconds.
This is exciting.
This is exciting. All right. Let us end the poll now. And the winner is Wicked. Wicked. So next week we will do the musical Wicked. And don't worry, we'll do this again and we'll have other choices. I'm surprised Secret Garden and Cinderella did so well. We will probably revisit those as well just because those are great shows. But Wicked will be next week. All right. Now, in our last 10 minutes, like I said, John was the man in this chair in this show, and this is your opportunity to ask him questions about being in the show, being in this role, or just ask general theater questions like we usually do. All right. Karen, if you'll do the honors.
Yeah, I'd like people to just raise their hands because it just makes it a lot easier if you can do that. So let's see, who has a question? Patty.
I had my hand before that.
I have a question, John.
Hi, Patty.
Hi. When you were doing that chair in the dark, that reminds me of me when I was watching a play.
That's exactly how it is designed to what it's designed to do. The whole show starts in the dark, and it starts in your head as an audience member, right?
I miss seeing all the Broadway shows, and when everything is all better, I hope I can see more Broadway shows.
Right, me too.
And I saw the show Wicked before, so that's why.
Yes. There's a lot of darkness in Wicked, like literally.
That's why I want to ask you.
Thanks. Good question.
All right, let's go to Dylan.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hello.
Hi.
I was just wondering, so what was your favorite part of being in the show John?
Well, I think you guys, that's a good question. And I think what you guys have realized is that Kristen and I both love musicals very, very much. And you know what really happens when you get to be in a show where your character is kind of close to who you are as a person in real life. There's something about that's super, it's like 10 times better for you as the actor, because you get to pull on parts of yourself and put them into your character. And so it was really, really fun. And I also it was just a really special time to be able to share part of myself with the audience and not just my character. So I think that was my favorite part.
Nice.
Thank you, John. Let's go to Brian Heffernan.
Brian.
Hi, everyone. I have a comment to make. Remember the reference you've made when we did Into the Woods that musical and Wicked are both about fairy tales is one of the reasons why I voted for Wicked.
Oh, cool. Yes. Yeah, there's lots of familiar themes in musicals. You know, fairy tales are really cool because they're stories that are told to us when we're little, and they're told in these really theatrical ways with fairy princesses and witches, and it's exciting. And so it works out really well on stage because then you get to have special effects and you get to have, Elphaba flying up in the sky and all the magic tricks that can come. So yeah, I think That's
I
what's
have one
super
more,
fun.
I have one more comment about both musicals, the one I voted for and the Drowsy Chaperone. Is that interesting personal comment is that my first trip to New York was with Mr. Fignon's history classes, and he was going to take us to the Drowsy Chaperone, but we ended up going to Wicked.
Wow, we are giving
That's
you.
funny.
Wow.
That's so great.
What a
I mean,
coincidence.
I'm sad because you didn't get to see the Drowsy Chaperone, but to get to see Wicked in New York, wow, what a fun experience.
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to go to Jacob. Can you unmute yourself, Jacob?
Hello.
Hi, Jacob.
Hi, John. Hi, Kristen. My name's Jacob.
Hi, Jacob.
Nice to meet
How
you.
are you? You got my messages I sent you.
You know what? I don't look at the messages while I'm talking. I tend to read them not until the very end.
But I enjoy Wicked. I love Wicked. Thanks for having me at the show tonight.
Thanks, Jacob. That was very sweet of you. Aren't they great?
Can I go back to muting myself? Can I go back to muting myself?
Yes. Thank you for asking. Let's go to Ruth.
Hey, Ruth.
Hello.
Hi.
I've never seen the show before.
Oh.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
Anything else, Ruth?
No.
All
You sure you don't want to sing us a song? Because we know what a great voice you have.
I don't think so. I've never seen the show before.
You learned some of the choreography, though, right?
Kind of.
Oh, she's a good dancer.
Right.
All right. Let's see. Who else? Philip.
Hand up.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, you're good. So I have a question. How many characters are in the play? I have a good. It's not doesn't matter how many characters thing.
How does it matter?
I'll answer that.
I would say how many.
Okay.
So there are 11 named characters in this show. This show is really fun. A lot of high schools and colleges put it on because it's called an ensemble cast, where there's no one character that has way more than anyone else, and there's a lot of really good parts. So there's 11 characters that have names, but you can add a whole lot more. You can have more servants, you can have more gangsters, you can have more backup dancers, you can have more party guests, so you can add as many as you want. A typical production, I think, on Broadway is going to have about 16.
Oh, good. I like it. 60 people so much.
Thanks, Philip.
You're welcome.
Let's go to Nicole.
So,
hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hello.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi, Mark. Okay, so our upcoming musical that we're going to be doing, I've seen it a few times in Boston with my mom.
Wow.
And yeah. So and yeah, it was wicked awesome.
You're so punny.
I'm familiar with the plot behind it. I know the story of it. It's about the is it okay if I share? It's a story behind the two witches being sisters.
It's about friendship.
Wicked Witch to the east and the Wicked Witch to the west. And the music behind it, I have to say, it's like one of my favorite musicals of all time.
It's pretty great. And I should mention that John will not be joining us for Wicked, and instead I will be joined again by Jennifer Ashworth.
Wicked bummer. That's a
great.
Wicked bummer.
Man, you're Bostonian.
I love all musicals, but Wicked is like one of my all-time, ranked right up there favorites.
We figured it would be.
And I've seen it a few times in Boston.
Thanks, Nicole. Let's go to Allison and Kim.
I don't see them.
There they are. Hi.
Hi, ladies.
Hello. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Clifton and Allison.
Hi.
The show was really good. The choreography was good as well. I told Kevin that I was in musical plays when I first started high school.
Nice.
I was in the set music and some other plays. I found out there was another Broadway musical coming. Like Michael Jackson.
Oh.
Yes, there is. It's
It's
gonna.
called the Michael Jackson on Broadway.
Yes.
It's coming, I think.
Yeah.
Better
It's-
save your money for that one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm hoping
When
to do that sometime. This is coming this
I doubt we'll ever do Michael Jackson the musical here. That's probably not going to be one that we would do. It's because it's what's called a jukebox musical, meaning it's going to be all of Michael Jackson's music on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll
We
be like a big
actually did-
concert.
But
We
actually,
did do it.
I could do the performance.
Allison, I don't know if you remember, you might not have been in it, but we did Michael Jackson with Spotlighters one time.
Yes.
Fun.
But I can do the performance.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Allison.
We are out of time, my friends.
I was just gonna say, I think we're done, man. 8:00, 8:01.
Yeah.
One, I hate to keep you late. I mean, it's only 5:00 here. I got lots of time, but man, you guys
Kristen?
are late.
Kristen, you ever met Mickey Crasson? You ever met Meryl